Today I want to start with a couple of wines. They're all from one certain type. They are called sparkling wine. So they come from a family where it is not about the other type of wine, which is called still wine, but here we talk about wine with bubbles. And the one or the other from you might ask the question, why is it necessary at all? There's a very simple reason for it, because it's a party wine type. It's something that you would like to drink when you are partying, whatever it is, celebration, wedding, whatsoever, together with your family or with other beloved ones. And it's simply fun to drink wine with bubbles. Let's say everything with bubbles is creating a little bit more fun, and you know that from non-alcoholic drinks already. What did I choose? I have chosen 4 different wines today. They are all available here in beautiful Tashkent. And by the way, I'm sitting here in Tashkent city in a very nice apartment. You see the nice view behind me. This is nothing artificial. This is really the truth. That's how it looks like here. And the first wine is a sparkling wine coming from this country here. It comes from one of the largest producers here called Bagatoni. Bagatoni, it's called Salute, and it has even a production year on it, as you can see on the label here. That's from the year 2020, and it comes in as a Brut version, which means it's dry. Not absolutely dry, but it is quite dry. Bagatoni is one of the older producers here. They are located in the region of Samarkand, which is much more famous, of course, for the famous mosque area and the school over there. But it is also since a lot of time, long time already producing wines there. This one is made of the grape variety Riesling. Riesling is a German grape variety, well known for its high acidity, and it is a grape variety which is excellent for the production of sparkling wines. I come to the way how it was produced later on, but let's have a sip now. Yeah, you see, I'm always checking for certain reasons also the color. It is a pale yellow color, and when I have a look into and smell, then I get really very nice aromas. It's very much dominated by bruised apple. It's a little bit of pear. It's not very complicated, but it's fruit driven, and yeah, it smells really very appealing. And that's what it is also in the mouth. It is really refreshing. It's vibrant. It's quite fresh. If I would complain about anything, it's losing quite fast the bubbles. I opened it 5 minutes ago. It's already starting to lose the bubble. That has probably to do with the way it was produced. There is nothing mentioned on the label here, but I guess it was done by the Shamat method, so not the classical bottle fermentation. But anyway, this is really fun. Something that fits also to light dishes such as a salad or something with chicken, or even a Samarkand plov style would make fun together with this wine. It's light. It is fairly dry, but not too dry. So you can also drink it easily on its own, and that's something in case you have guests at home to probably welcome them with a few light dishes, or even to enjoy it on its own. So this is really well done. It's actually the cheapest wine of this day, because it's produced here locally. That was around 90,000 som in a shop. For everybody outside of Uzbekistan, we talk about 5-6 euros or $7-8 US. That's the retail price here, and there is no doubt this is really worth the money. So very well done, Bagatoni. I really like it. Cheers. But this probably will even make fun if the bubbles are out, because the basic wine is really good.
It's a Riesling.
Riesling, yes.
And they make wine without bubbles.
Yes,
from the
normally
same
most
grade.
of it is produced as a still wine, and they make
Yes.
for sure still wine as well out of it. So that's probably the second quality, the second best quality they are chosen for the sparkling wine.
It almost smells like a normal Riesling, what I would call a Riesling.
It has something. It has something of a typical Riesling inside. It's really well made, and yeah, probably one of the best sparklings, at least at this price level. There's nothing much to complain.
And if I'm not mistaken, salute is a Russian word. It means fireworks, right? And,
Yeah.
and on the bottle we also
I think it's a French word, even salute. I think it's a French word. This is more or less salute to the world. That's the firework here. That's what it is. That's what it is. And the problem is that 2020 it's probably already too old, because this should be consumed quite fast, because it loses the bubbles.
This is not the type of wine that you age. This is the wine
exactly
you
not the type of wine that you age. You buy it, and 2020 should drink now 2023, in fact. But the shop where I bought it, they have still 2020, so maybe they don't sell it that good. But it would be worth to drink a young version of it.
I think it's also because there's a misconception with wine, especially when you're just learning.
Yeah.
They say you should always go for a wine that's 3 years old at least.
Yeah, this is really, really wrong. For almost 90% of all the wines being produced, because most of them are produced for a more or less immediate consumption, or for consumption within the next 1-2 years. And just a very limited percentage of wine is really produced for long-term aging, for 10 years or even longer. Some of them can age decades even, but this is really a very rare part of the overall production. So most of the wines are produced for early consumption, and this is not any different with this one here.
Maybe you can help me understand something. I remember hearing somewhere that you shouldn't really be drinking wines that are champagnes that are over 10 years old. And there was something about vintage champagne, which once it passes a certain age, it's not supposed to be so palatable. Is that the case?
That's actually true, but it depends very much on the production method, as I introduced already, because wines made of this method here, like the Charmat method, which means it is not done in the classic way like real champagne is being produced. So it's not the second fermentation, which is necessary to create the bubbles inside. It's not done in the bottle itself, but it's done in a big tank, which is then closed, and then they fill it with something sugar and then yeast, and the second fermentation takes place in there, and that creates the bubbles. The difference is the bubbles are about to leave a glass quite soon. They don't stay for longer because they are very small, and this is because the wine is not produced for a long term to stay in the bottle. Champagne is done in a very different way, and champagne can be produced in a very complex ways. So for champagne, we would need probably 10 videos to show everything that is on the market, all the kinds of types that are there. But at least champagne in principle is always made for longer aging. Even the basic products are made to last at least 5 years. If it's then a vintage champagne, as you mentioned, it is supposed to last even longer, and there are champagnes that can age for decades as well. So this is really a big question of how much efforts were put into the production, not only of the grapes in this respect, but when it's about champagne and the sparkling wine of this method, we really talk about everything that's being done in the cellar then afterwards. Because when we talk about champagne, we also talk about putting in reserve wines from other vintages, and so on and so on and so on. So all these things are possible. And the purpose is always to increase complexity and longevity. And a vintage wine is supposed to be just from 1 year, of course. but it's being produced normally only in a year where the grape quality is of exceptionally high quality. So then you can produce something outstanding of champagne in the vintage year as well.
Okay, so in a nutshell then, for a layperson, if it is for fast consumption, not aged, they will not carbonate it, but the second fermentation process is in the tank.
Yes.
But if it's for longevity, they will do it in the bottle.
Right. Yes.
Salute.
The next one is actually one from a very big producer, famous in Russia. The company is called Fanagoria, and it's a Brut rosé. That means we have now a rosé version. And if I have a look at the bottle here, what can I read? It is made out of a few grape varieties like Chardonnay. We have Sauvignon Blanc in there. We have Rizus in there, we have Pinot Noir in there, we have Merlot in there, we have Riesling in there, and we have Aligoté in there. So quite an interesting composition. Fanagoria is actually one of the by far biggest producers in Russia, so around 4,000 hectares of vineyards they are owing. Produced by the Charmat method, so that's what we just had. And the Charmat method is a version where the fermentation, the second fermentation, so that means the ready-made wine is put into a tank. All right, opening I mentioned already. We have to be careful with this in this position, and you always turn the bottle. So keep the cork as it is, and then let it come slowly. This was close to perfection. All right, let's see what we have here. No doubt, this looks like a rosé wine.
I can see the pinkness already.
All right.
Okay, so because this one was done with the second fermentation in the tank, does that mean it's the faster process and it's expected to be drank in a couple of years?
Yes, that has definitely an impact on the possibility to age a wine like this. It is definitely one of these wine styles which is supposed to be consumed quite early. So let's say this has been produced in 2022. I would say this is now a wine which has to be drunk now. Maybe if you have a good possibility to store them next year, but not later than that.
So 2 to 3 years, 3 years maximum.
Right. Very nice, close to orange color, right?
Yeah.
I really like it, a little bit amber. Very, very small bubbles, you see it. And you see also in the glass already how fast they are escaping. You probably cannot see it here, but I can see that. This is quite typical for a sparkling wine produced by this method. So the bubbles are escaping quite fast. So that means if you open a bottle, you are supposed to really finish it. You cannot leave the bottle and consume it the next day because the bubbles will be gone. This is for sure in this respect.
It is so fresh.
This is really nice. I like the smell. It smells really of apple, but I get also some pineapple, a little bit of lemon zest, and even a little bit of saltiness. It's really nice.
I think it's very girly. This is the type of wine you would buy to have with a young lady, and they will not complain it's too dry. This is a wine that I think will please everybody's palate.
Right. This is something that I would like to add here. This so-called Brut style. Of course, in Russia we don't have the same law than we have in Europe in all these protected origins, as we say, like for champagne and so on. But it is more or less worldwide recognized that the Brut style doesn't mean it is ultra dry. That means without any residual sugar. That means normally there's a little bit of so-called dosage put in, which means a few grams of sugar per liter. So I would say from the taste, this probably has between 4 and 6 grams per liter residual sugar in there, which makes it very accessible. And this is what it's supposed to do, because as you said, girly stuff. I wouldn't say it's only girly stuff. It is something that you can really enjoy on a party. You just need to have enough people to make the bottle empty. But I think that's not the problem with this one, because it's really fresh. It's really refreshing. And it keeps that also on the palate. Huh? It's not very complicated. It's not very long. Gone already.
Amazing.
So.
Okay, only this time, because if we do it with every bottle, I will be completely lost. It's tasting day. But this is amazing. This is almost the alcopop of wines.
Yeah,
it's incredibly palatable.
Very, very accessible. It's in no way really fat. It's not. It's a light wine. It's quite well structured. It's quite well balanced. The acidity is there, but I would say it's medium acidity. It has a medium body and a medium aftertaste. Not very long, but that's not the expectation. Not the expectation from a wine like this. It's really enjoyable. You can have it with food as well, but it must really be food on the light side. So probably you take it with a salad, or you have it with a light rice dish, and not too much, or with a fish as well. That would also be possible, but not one of the strong ones, not a carp or something like this, but with a trout or something like this. This would be suitable, no doubt.
That citrus note with the fish, I think, will go incredibly well.
Yeah. And light young cheeses would also be an idea to.
Oh yeah.
As a pairing. So this is really nice. That retails for 180,000 soms, which means that would be a roughly 12 euros, I guess. 12 euros.
Would that be about $15, do you reckon?
Yes, something like this. 180,000 som.
That's not bad, is it?
That's not bad. So that's definitely worth the money. Always consider when you are in Uzbekistan that imported wines, of course, they have some taxes and, of course, sometimes quite high logistics costs on top, because Uzbekistan is really having long distances to the neighborhood countries.
Well, it's double landlocked.
Yeah.
Oh, 1440. Bloody close.
Well, that's US dollar, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
40 for the US dollar would be some 12 euros, something like this. All right, not bad.
This is my favorite one so far. Do you know, I'm usually not into rosés that much. I like to either choose a white or a red. This is getting me more interested in rosés now, actually.
Yeah. You know, there's a big boom for rosé wine now worldwide. So far, I haven't seen a rosé still wine version from Uzbekistan so far. Maybe
we need to learn.
We will find some, but we will look out. We will seek and look. Very well done, Fanagoria. Good product, definitely worth the money. The next one here is originating in Georgia, which is also a very famous place for producing wine. For a very long time, and even today, most of the Georgians are very proud of their old tradition, because it's absolutely clear, and the proof is there, that they started with wine production already 8,000 years ago. So far longer than anybody else did in good old Europe, which is nowadays much more famous for wine production. But I have to admit that Georgia is absolutely catching up. And they did a lot of progress in the last decade, I would say. So investing money again, doing proper marketing, and identifying a few target markets, which really moved them forward. And the first time I visited Georgia some 5 years ago, I used to taste quite a number of faulty wines, I have to say. But in the meantime, a lot of these wines have considerably catched up now. So this wine is done by a single grape variety, one of the really high quality grapes in Georgia, especially in the biggest wine area in Kacheti, and that's called Mtswane. If you Google that, and probably we have an insert later on in our video, is really a grape variety that is really able to produce perfect and very, very high quality wines. Bagatoni, the producer itself, is one of the big players on the market, so one of the 3 or 4 big players in the Georgian market. They are located in the Kacheti area, which is covering the southeast of Georgia. Yeah, and we have now a look. If I see the bubbles, I would also say, because it's nowhere mentioned here, but I would also say this is also being produced by the Shamat method here. So the same way than the wine before, but it's just now, it's a single grape variety. By the way, we had here on this Russian wine, we had a year, that means it's really from a vintage. And here I cannot see any year named. That means that's then what we call it a so-called Novitage NV. That means it could be from several years, wines from several years mixed together here.
So
not just from one grape variety.
So not only is it, do you have the blends of the different grapes from the same year?
Yes.
In this case, we've got the same grape.
The same grape from probably different years, probably even different producers. Who knows?
Wow.
It's not mentioned here.
Okay.
So here we are more on the citric side from the smell. We have a little bit apple. We have a little bit citrus here, not lemon. Here it's really citrus. Very fresh. Very fresh.
It smells less complex than the first one, for sure.
It does, no doubt it does. The acidity is also more medium, but it's fresh because of it's being kept fresh by the bubbles here in maturity. So I would also say, if I have to decide which of the two I would take a second time, I would still tend to take the Fanagoria in this respect, which is not an offense against this one, because it's very different. It's not really comparable, but it's not that fresh from the compared to the other one.
It's quite strange for me, actually, because I usually have a biased opinion towards Georgian wine. When I first came here 15 years ago, unless you wanted to go to a European style bar and pay over $100, the only wine you could actually get your hands on in this country at the time was Georgian wine.
Yes, absolutely.
So I became quite partial to it. However, I think I would have liked this wine a lot more if I had not tried the first one first.
That was obviously not the perfect decision, but you never know before you didn't taste it. This is what I always say. Nobody, and this is my hint for everybody who is watching, don't simply compare wines by its price. Don't compare it by its labels. You need to taste the wines. Only tasting will tell you what is what you like and what is what you don't like. So even what we are doing here is just that we are showing and presenting them, but there's no necessity that you simply share our opinion. You can say this one is much better than the other one. This is just a matter of taste at the very end. So it's absolutely and always up to the consumer himself. What is the decision? What is the style that he prefers the most? What is the wine that he prefers the most? But here we are obviously on the same side. I would say this is nice. It's fresh. It's less complex. And what I have here in the aftertaste is a recognizable bitterness. So there's bitterness in the aftertaste. This is something which might be nothing bad, right? But I believe it here with this wine, it does not add up but it's simply a deduction from the balance. It means it is not really well in balance. This would be if we had more complexity, more body, more acidity as well. The slight bitterness would be add up. It would be a plus and not a minus. Here, in my opinion, it's a minus because before it's very soft. It's not extremely. I don't have too many aromatics here.
There's too much of a gap between the two. There's nothing bridging it to
Also in
blend them
comparison,
together.
right? But for me, the most important thing is that this wine, as such, is lacking balance. It's not very complex, but it's still lacking a little bit of balance. It's a good wine. It has no fault. There's nothing to complain. It retails by 200,000, so slightly higher than the Fanagoria.
Crazy, isn't it? Always happens.
Yeah, not much more expensive, but as I can say, yeah, if I have to choose from the two ones, I would probably go for the first one next time. And that's, as mentioned, nothing to say against Bagatoni because I know they are producing really, really good wines. And but this is really, yeah, in the comparison, I really don't prefer this one.
If I had drank this one first, perhaps I would be saying even more positive things. But because I have the first one as the benchmark, I have to say that lack of complexity, the lack of a bridge between the bitterness of the aftertaste and the mildness of the middle notes, the gap is too big.
Yeah. The acidity is maybe even medium plus, so I might say this is something with white fish. This could go well. I wouldn't combine this with a salad because of the bitterness in the aftertaste. This does not really fit together with the salad.
On the salad, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Probably it would be nice with white cheese as well. Not an old one, but a young one. And then that's it. And then or take it as an appetizer. Don't serve it too warm, you know, in respect of serving temperatures here with sparkling wines, especially if they are not made from the champagne method. I would always recommend to serve them slightly on a lower temperature. 6 to 8 degrees is a perfect temperature for a wine like this, because you will not get a high volume of aromas out of it. It's not supposed to bring that. It is exactly doing what it should do. It's not too complex. And that's why champagne, especially complex wines made by the champagne method, for them the temperature is on average a little bit higher if you would recommend it, because there's higher complexity in it. And it evolves much more in the glass than we can expect here.
And when you say champagne method, you mean the old-fashioned method of bottle by bottle, right?
And we talk about this exactly, which is supposed to bring higher qualities because of this method, which is also supposed to bring higher age-worthiness, which is then, and champagnes, especially if we talk about the region champagne, there are very, very, very complex versions. So there's an entry level. It starts, also champagnes are starting from, what would it be here, 280, 300,000 in Europe. That would probably here be 350,000, 400,000 starting point, entry level champagne. But of course there are versions which are considerably more expensive, and in Europe starting then from 350, 400, 500 US dollars. Upwards, of course. This is not the end of the story, but you can, of course, expect much more complexity then, and you can definitely expect one of the most complex wines in the world being produced in Champagne. But there are also other producers in other countries who know very well how to do wines in the traditional methods, and of course, it is very much dependent on the basic wine. You know, you cannot by second fermentation make a wine more complex at the very end. So the basic wine brings it, or it doesn't bring it.
So it's like food. It's based on the ingredients, the quality.
Absolutely,
of the ingredients.
absolutely. This is it. and you have a certain expectation. The winemaker hopefully has it, and it means the higher the quality of the grapes, the higher the ripeness, the higher the acidity, the higher the aromas in there, the more you can expect from the final product. In the past, it used to be the fact that in many countries only the second and third quality grapes were being fermented afterwards to sparkling wine. This is obviously because of the big boom nowadays not the case in any time, because in Champagne anyway not, because they are producing more or less just sparkling wines. But in the rest of the world where they also produce sparklings, no doubt the quality of the basic grapes has increased because there's a huge boom worldwide for sparkling wines. That's one of the major reasons, by the way, why I say this time we have to introduce sparkling wines here, because I don't see in Uzbekistan so far many people drinking sparkling wines. And I guess this is something that that is really very, very interesting, and probably interesting for more Uzbek people, because it's a wine to celebrate, actually, you know.
Sure. I've got a question for you then. In the UK, we do a lot of sparkling wines now. We
Yes.
have a lot of heritage to do with wine, with the Roman Empire and everything else. My hometown is renowned for things associated with this. But I look at our weather, and then I look at the weather here. What's the weather like for you when you think of Uzbekistan? Is it the right type of place to be making the type of grapes that are required for sparkling wine?
Yes and no. Yes and no. It's this is a very good question, but it's not that easy to answer, because to say the truth, there are a lot of reasons impacting what is good for sparkling wine and what not. If you let's say compare each and every sparkling wine, starting from the Champagne area in France, which is definitely still today one of the most, if not the most important hotspot in terms of any sparkling wine production in the world. Then you would say a so-called cool climate, which means an area which is more far away from the hotter area than Uzbekistan, has an advantage, because what you need for a good sparkling wine is definitely a certain level of acidity, and a warmer climate tends to simply do everything to ripen the grapes much earlier. That means earlier ripen, and the must afterwards contains a little bit more sugar than if it's more in the north, and this is something that brings in the freshness, which is then sometimes lacking in wines which are lacking freshness. Georgia, by the way, I would not consider a warm climate. So where this wine comes from, this is definitely for me cool climate. Same goes for the Russian wine. That's why I was so surprised in a really positive way by our first wine, because it was made of Riesling. So in terms of the grape variety, they did a very good decision, because Riesling by its nature has one of the highest acidity levels of all grape varieties. There are just a few which come along with that. So this was a good decision. And it was, of course, you could taste it was coming from a warm climate, but you could still figure out, we talk about Riesling there. And therefore it is possible. What can you do here in a country like Uzbekistan? Uzbekistan in the east, northeast, has also really high mountains. So what can really lead to a better balance and a higher acidity would be to have the wines planted on a higher altitude. That means I have already tasted the wine here coming from an altitude of around 1,600 meters. And this is then bringing in the freshness and the acidity as well that you want to have. On the other hand, I mean, this first wine was coming from Samarkand. Samarkand, in my opinion, is more or less flat, but I was surprised as well. The area is a cooler climate than Tashkent. Tashkent is supposed to be
Yes,
warmer.
that's true.
For me, a surprise because in my head, Samarkand is a very hot place, but I'm obviously not really knowing how it is because
I've
I've
lived
never
in
been there.
both. I've lived in both, and I can guarantee you that long term, especially with these summers, here is definitely a lot hotter. It's a very dry heat, but it's definitely hotter.
Interesting, interesting. All right, we have the fourth and last bottle of this evening here, and this is actually coming from a very different country. It is from the so-called New World. New World.
Down under.
In this case, yes, famous with its second name Down Under, because it comes from Australia, and it comes from a exceptional big producer, traditional producer, Jacob's Creek. So I guess everybody who is watching this came among it already in its past, because it's really a famous labor, and they do all kind of wines. They are also a big producer. You see, founded only 1847, and yeah, we have also here no specified vintage. That means this is also a so-called NV, non-vintage. But this wine is produced by the traditional method. That means we are talking now about the so-called champagne method, or the traditional method. That means the second fermentation took place in the bottle.
Bottle by bottle.
Bottle by bottle, which means there's a lot of more workload behind each and every bottle, but that the quality of it is also supposed to be higher.
It's almost twice as labor intensive if you think about it.
I would think so, yes, at least. And of course, this is just about just when we talk about the pure fermentation process and so on. Of course, this could be extended. As I mentioned, a champagne from one of the highest quality producers. There's also already much more workload behind it when it comes to the work in the vineyard.
And then the extra wine for topping up and everything else, it all adds up.
Absolutely. What do we have inside here? It's mentioned here very clearly. We talk about two of the grape varieties, which are also the most important ones in the Champagne area themselves. The white wine grape Chardonnay, the most widely planted white wine grape in the world. And the second one, Pinot Noir, has a lot of other names too, but the most famous of it is the original French name here. And Pinot Noir is a red grape variety, famous for light colored, but very high aromatic and partly extremely age-worthy wine. So it's one of the highest level quality grapes in the world.
So I have a question for you. We obviously have Pinot Blanc and we have Pinot Noir. Noir, although it means black for me, is the red grape.
Right.
Why is it white then?
Because this is a certain development of the grape itself. It was a natural development, obviously. So all the grapes that you just mentioned, Pinot Blanc, same Chardonnay and so on, are related to Pinot Noir. So it means they are children of the Pinot Noir grape. The original one was the Pinot Noir. Today we know that was a lot of science and a lot of work to find this out, but today this is well known. So they belong to the same family. They are related with each other. But Chardonnay is obviously a white grape, a highly aromatic grape, which can do a lot of styles at the very end. Pinot Noir normally is done in dry and maximum in semi-dry versions. So now have a look on the bubbles and the way how they move and behave in your glass, because this should be slightly different.
This is the real one. This is the one for longevity, right? This is
Yes.
bottle by bottle.
At least it's supposed to be.
It's so
yeah, we have here a golden color, and you can see bubbles are coming, but they are much slower moving.
Mine
And
only
this is-
started to disappear when I did the angle to check the color.
And that's already showing a difference here. That's already showing a difference. The color is quite deep. This is goes already in the direction of golden. This is pale golden color. Yeah, and here we have now on the nose already aromas which are adding up to the pure fruit compared to the
Definitely.
two ones before.
This is what they keep calling the body, right? So you
Exactly.
can smell it.
Exactly. We see here, or we taste here, we smell here that we have additional to, let's say, ripe apples, pear, a little bit of peach. I find here immediately brioche. Brioche, this is yes, French bakery product, where you can, which is really just consumed when it is very, very fresh, and that has a smell of dog, and this is what we have inside here, and that comes from the fermentation process, the way it was done. This is what you will not have in a sparkling wine produced by the Charmat method.
I didn't realize how light and crisp the first one was until I tasted something so heavy.
This is much more full-bodied. Of course, it is still a light wine, but compared to the two ones we had before, or the three ones we had before, this is definitely more complex. Not in terms of alcohol, by the way, because we talk here about 11% of alcohol. This is a low alcohol wine. The other one, the Georgian one, had 12.5%, and the first one had between 11 and 13, so probably 12% on average. So this is the lightest wine by alcohol, but this is what is supposed to be considered under body. It's not only the alcohol, it's what adds up to the aromatic profile, and especially to the balance, the mouth feeling, the acidity when you really sip it.
I'm not really tasting the alcohol today, to be honest. The alcohol was not as strong today compared to the last time. It's completely different.
Because the wines are now well temperatured.
I can see the difference.
This is what makes it. So if you would open now a red wine at room temperature, and this is here some 22, 23 degrees for sure.
It will knock your socks
with
off.
4.5%, we would not enjoy it, even if it would be a very, very high quality wine.
You would even get an aftertaste from it.
We would not like it. I guarantee you, we would not like it, even if it would be a wine for, I don't know, a couple of million zones. We would not be happy with it. The temperature to serve wines, everybody who is watching here, please take care about the temperature. The temperature needs to be sufficient to really enjoy the wine. A wine which is served too warm, and this is in many of the cases the biggest problem, will not be enjoyable as it could be.
I think it's more important in a country like this. Here, definitely, because it's particularly warm. Back home, for example, where I come from in the UK, I don't think we have to be as concerned.
No, but I think it's in the maturity. It's a thing of know-how, because it's if you are in a place, let's say kind of higher level restaurant, you can definitely be sure that they would take care of the serving temperature. Of course they would. Of course they would. If you are in a low level restaurant, let's say something which is standard, you cannot be sure about it, even not in Europe. And I have been served wine at room temperature, white wines even, in simple restaurants somewhere in Central Europe, and that was lack of know-how of the people selling it. And this is really, really sad, because it should really not happen. That means you have to really insist, if you are entering such a restaurant and you are being served a wine which is too warm, insist that the waiter have a look at the ice inside there. This is what you need, and then leave it in the bottle, put the bottle in there, and wait for at least 20-25 minutes. Have a beer in between, or don't have any alcohol in between. Whatever you want, but don't start with the wine, because you will be disappointed. Yes, this here could now be, as I mentioned, because it is done by the traditional method, be served a little bit slightly at a higher temperature. I would say 9 to 10 degrees serving temperature would be fine with this one.
Because you want some more of the body to come through.
Because we follow that now. We have it in the glass. If you, I give you something more.
Sure.
Let it aerate a little bit in the glass, and you will see there are aromas coming up, additional aromas that you don't recognize immediately.
And that's because
so there's something going on.
Yes.
There is something going on because it is warming up in the glass. This is why I personally always prefer to have a wine served a little bit too much chilled compared to have it served at a too warm temperature.
Why? To take your time and go through the different temperatures.
To simply smell it and have all this development of the increasing temperature inside in your nose, because it's adding up to yes.
Well, it does make a lot of sense, because once it's in the glass, it can always warm up, but it can't cool down. So
exactly,
you have
it goes just in one direction. Absolutely.
I think I like this wine a lot more because of how it contrasts with the first one. I think the middle one was disappointing because it was almost an imposter of the first one, whereas the third one is so almost unique compared to the other ones.
Yes.
I love them both.
This is exactly what I mentioned. That's why I mentioned the way they were really produced, because to compare them now by quality is of course unfair, right? Because it's not the same class. We are here definitely one class higher than with these two ones. These two ones are supposed to be drunken at a party as an entry wine when somebody enters the room, and the first you hand him over a glass of sparkling for refreshments, or let's say with very light foods in combination, but nothing more, just to enjoy, not more.
Jacob's Creek, by the way, in the UK, we see a lot more of it at Christmas. And I think the reason why we buy it more at Christmas is a little bit more expensive, and it's the safer option.
Right.
We know there's a little bit of quality in there. We know it's going to be acceptable.
Yep.
We know very rarely is anyone going to complain
Yep.
with the product. And so it's the perfect
Absolutely.
gift. Whereas the first one is something we would probably buy on a whim on a regular basis, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And the price also mirrors that.
Demonstrates
right?
that. Yeah.
This is what it is. It's of course much lower. This was here 320,000 soms. So we talk here about 25 euros, something like this. That's of course more than double than the two other ones. So it is not only the quality level. The quality level is also underlying the price. You can see the price is also in there. This is definitely this has to be paid. There's no doubt about it.
This wine tasting is really, really good because I can actually compare the difference with the price. I can understand the difference with the process.
That was the purpose, to really show that what is on the market first of all, and what can we find. And there are a few more. So this is not everything that is really available here. But it shows the different styles, and you can identify what you like and what you like more. And in fact, the solution at the very end might be all of the three are really nice for a certain event, for a certain time of the day, for a certain period of the year, whatsoever. So it doesn't mean that these two ones are bad at all. This is just they are made in a different way for a different purpose.
Okay, I don't want to sound like I'm being too negative with the middle one. It's not that I'm saying I would never buy it. So I'll put it to you another way. If the first one was not available, and the other one was available in the shop, I would buy it 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if the first one was available, I would buy it hands down.
Absolutely. I truly hope you enjoyed our short video introducing wines available in Tashkent city, Uzbekistan. Today, sparkling wines of the world, of course, including Uzbek ones, and we will definitely continue to show what Uzbekistan and its winemakers are able to do. If you like the video, please give us a like, please subscribe to it, and if you have any comments, please send us any comments. We really like to see what you think about it. And our target is still at least to have every 2 weeks a new video coming up. And yeah, happy days to you. Thank you very much for listening, and we see each other again.
Happy days.
Cheers.